Restoring men and history. We want you men to be excellent. We want you to be great. Talking about manliness today and the virtues. Look, it's a topic you can repeat and repeat because grit, perseverance, and these are important to you men. And guess what? You don't have to be wealthy. You don't have to have material possessions. You don't have to have a elegant, extravagant car. But you can control it. And you can be great. And you can possess and develop manliness. And we want you to have that. Many factions in the world do not want you to have that. They want weak men. Why? For control. So it's a good piece we're going to go into. Some of the men who have gone before you have created great inventions. And the world has flourished. Why? Because of you men. You are important to society. You're needed for society. You're needed for women. You're needed for the world. You may feel attacked. Sure. But no, the world needs you. You may feel withdrawing is a better option, but in fact, the world needs you more than ever. That is not the way for long-term happiness in the Aristotle sense. Women need you, and you need them. While some factions will try to attack and divide you, we want you to be great. If you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Thank you. All right, the article we're going to get into, and we're going to expand on it quite a bit, so we may break this in part 1, 2, and 3, I don't know. Manliness was once our greatest virtue. And if you go back to Rome and Greece, you know what they thought the manly virtues were, and manliness. But let's get into the article. Manliness was once our greatest virtue, March 5th, 2015, Chad House, Howse. It's a good one for us, and we've started, our very first video was on what? The virtues. And the knights, and the code, and the knight's code. Knights and virtues we started with. And this is great because you can control it. You can choose to have manliness. All right, let's go into this piece. There are 3 books that he's talking about that he's going to go over, and he's going to give you quotes from. We're going to expand on these quotes and add other books as we go in quotes. And it's worth it if you get through all 3 parts, if we break it into 3 parts for the good quotes that he puts in and the books. And we're going to add some. Probably, if we have time. We'll see what time we have. So there are 3 books on his desk about great wise men, and you can be a wise man, right? Wisdom is not talked about enough in America today. Think about what you value. Reading through each, he notices a consistent referral to a virtue that's no longer spoken of, or at least not openly, or as freely as it has been throughout human history. And we've talked about this multiple times. So he goes into the first pages, and I've read this book. It's a fantastic book. You should read it, man. The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. By the way, I've read all 3 books. Theodore Rex, Colonel Roosevelt, and The Rise of Theodore Roosevelt. If you're out there, Scotty, you'll know how great they are. Brian Kaiser. Now, I read all 3 books. They're all well written and engaging. Beautiful writing from Edmund Morris. Now, let's get back to the piece. Surprised by the constant use of the term manly. Now, TR, and we just did a speech last night in the Beverly Hills group for a TR speech where he talks about manliness. So we do these speeches often. We did it last Thursday. We've done many TR speeches. But he talks a lot about manly. And of course, he'd gone out to a ranch and lived and developed that manliness TR had done. He had grown up wealthy as well. And there's a great film you can watch if you want to see male camaraderie. It's called The Rough Riders. It's by John Milius, a cigar-smoking great guy. Fantastic guy. Super sharp. Great films. And John Milius makes films. We should do a John Milius piece and video, by the way. He makes films with camaraderie and manliness in them. And The Rough Riders is an excellent film. So check that out. Sam Elliott's in it too, by the way. So most men need camaraderie today. We do that in our groups. We just met last night. We're meeting this Thursday. So let's go on. And in his speeches, and we've done his speeches are on our YouTube channel too. Some of the TR speeches we've done where we go through them and break them up. So you can check those out. But here's the thing. He goes back to, let's go back to the piece. I was intrigued, not because I disagree with this fine president, because not once in my schooling or work life has manliness been listed as a virtue that one should be proud to possess or try to attain. We want you to try to attain it. Manliness is important for society, and society needs it. Women need it. And in fact, if you think about going back to school about a lot of the literature books, men would not be interested in those books, right? So it's not a surprise with the school. If you look back the way the schools were developed, and we could go into a whole piece on that, but let's stick with this. In fact, schools today are schools of confusion for men, telling you might be a woman, and girls, they might be a man, right? And teaching you to be feminine, and confusion. Factions drive the you may be a woman agenda. Boys need direction, not confusion. Men need direction, not confusion. In fact, they don't discuss manly virtues at all. You feel attacked, and it makes it worse. All right, let's go back to the piece. It was never a virtue that is taught in school alongside kindness and self-reliance and goodness. Well, I didn't hear much about kindness and goodness growing up either in school, so I'm not sure where he went. And this is why films are important, by the way. If Jeff's out there, I'm sure he is. This is why films and stories are important for men. If you're not going to get it at school, if you've got an uninvolved father and you don't have a men's group you're in, where are you going to see a concrete example of a man? Men need to see concrete examples. Many men are visual. So it's not getting in the schools, and we can't rely on our Marxist indoctrination centers, quote, the schools. Trade schools are better for many men. Homeschooling, of course, and what we teach at home. So the problem is if you don't have a father at home and you're not involved, you got to get in a men's group because you're not going to get it. And you're not going to get it much from Hollywood today. Instead of teaching men to protect women, Hollywood's having women do all the protection in some films, right? Kindness is a great virtue, and we did talk about that. Then it's important. And again, don't depend on the schools. Do not depend on the schools. Homeschool your kids and teach them the virtues you want them to know if you're a father and mother, and you can do it. If they're in school, you've got to teach them when they get home. On Sundays, on Saturdays, you got to teach those virtues. What's important in life? What will make you a man? All right, going on. In fact, it's manliness that we've been pushed to run from in a schooling system and a society that benefits more from docile, timid souls, right, man, who are easy to command. Well, that makes sense, right? If there's factions that want more power, they want weak men, right? So you want to create weak men, men that can't stand peacefully against you, men that can't argue peacefully against you. And this, again, is why it must be taught in the home or in men's groups. Got to get it out somehow. Going on, he talks about TR as a rugged adventurer, and TR was. We just mentioned the Rough Riders. He went out to a ranch and lived and developed himself. Rugged adventurers like TR were far from the only men in history who saw manliness as one of the most important virtues. We see it as one of the most important virtues. This is why we gather men together every month, and we meet monthly to build that camaraderie and build up manliness. In reading Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, the second book on his desk, the term manliness pops up time and time again. We bring it up here often. As a quality that every man should possess if he wants to live in a purposeful, happy life. And we want you guys to live a happy life in the Aristotle sense. How are you going to look at your life over 10, 20, 30, 40 years? Not today, not a fleeting moment of happiness, but how are you going to build a life of purpose? We believe in purpose. Same phrase is spread throughout Seneca's On the Shortness of Life, the third book that he talks about. Men throughout history have seen the importance of this virtue and the necessity to not only teach, but to praise it. We want you to feel good about being man and that you're needed. We must praise manliness and honor it. We must do the opposite now and push how valuable men are and how valuable manliness is to society, to family, to community, to the country, to the republic. God said, one cannot always be a hero, but one can always be a man. Clearly, he's not talking about the sex of the human, something we're either born into or not. What is he talking about here? He's talking about the being, the character. That's what we want you to have. The values, the toughness, and here's a word we mention often. Grit, you can call it perseverance, fortitude, self-reliance. Now watch all these qualities. You can choose to have them, gentlemen. You can choose to have grit, right? You can choose to have toughness. You can choose to get back up after a bad day, after your business goes down. You can choose to get back and have grit. After that deal doesn't go through that you want, you can choose to have grit and keep going. Kurt keeps going, don't you, Kurt? Jack keeps going, Jack Marino. Grit, fortitude, and self-reliance. We talk a lot about these because we believe they're so important to you men to have. And if you have these, By the way, again, these are things you can all do and control today. And I don't think we can ever talk about it too much. We're going to come back to these virtues over and over on this channel. And it's good to remind yourself daily, weekly, how am I going to increase in courage? How am I going to increase in loyalty? How am I going to increase in perseverance? What actions am I going to take today? And then from that, what will happen? You will build up confidence. Each step you overcome, each obstacle you overcome, take that as a blessing. Say thank you, because it's going to make you stronger. It's going to make me stronger. Each obstacle we overcome makes you better and stronger. A disappointment can lead to you being better. Again, we talk about resilience going on after disappointment. Hey, let's go back to the piece. He goes on. Horace and sweet Martin wrote, "This is the test of your manhood." And this is just great. We believe this. How much is there, and listen to this, how much is there left in you after you have lost everything outside of yourself? Did you get that? This is just fantastic. After you've lost everything, what do? How many of you go on? How many of you can go on? How many will get back up? Now, this will set you apart. This will develop manliness. If you can get back up after disappointment, get back up when things go poorly, those struggles can make you greater. It will set you apart and make you a man. I know a guy that went to the group one night. He told his story. It's not a secret. He was going through a divorce. His wife kicked him out. He had to go live in a little tiny room. And he came back and became a great production designer on big films. Okay? So you can come back. And he was older. So you can come back at any age, any time. It's not an age thing. He kept going. He had what? What did he have? Resilience, grit. He's a great gentleman man, by the way. Further pushing this notion that manhood, let's go on. Further pushing this notion that manhood isn't something you are innately, but that it must be something that is measured and earned. So he goes on, he says, Norman Mailer, who said, masculinity is not something given to you, but something you gain, right? Isn't that good? And you gain it by winning small battles with honor. Now, we've talked about this. When you set goals, when you do things, little steps can give you confidence, and then you can keep going. Winning small battles with honor. How do you want to win, right? You want to win with honor, right? So winning small battles with honor, important, and it will increase your confidence and develop your what? Manliness. What are we trying to develop here, gentlemen? Manliness. So think of what battle you can win today, this week, next month, and what you're working on. What are you working on? What is your goal of this month? What do you want to accomplish this month? What is your purpose? Do you know your purpose? We've got a video on. And with each battle and each action, you could gain confidence. Now, it could go the other direction too. But if you're winning and you're completing the steps, it may increase your confidence and should increase your confidence. If you're overcoming obstacles and struggles, it should develop and increase your confidence. Are you driving toward it? Are you taking small steps each day to go forward in your goals, gentlemen? So he goes on to talk about overtly masculine men like T.R., Jack Donovan, the Stoic philosophers like Seneca and Aurelius, and writers like Mailer and Martin, contrasting opposite leaders like Churchill. Boy, Churchill was fantastic. We've got some Churchill speeches too. They're very inspiring. You get down as a man, go watch a Churchill speech. Go listen to our video on Churchill. Read one. Never has it been much, manliness has always been a virtue with similar characteristics, right? Never has its meaning been up much for debate. Can a man do things? When you're out in the woods, can you do things? How self-reliant are you out in the world? So let's think, how much money does persistence take? How much wealth do you have to have persistence? None. You can control that. Where do you have to be born to have persistence? You don't. You can have persistence today and you can choose it, and you can have no money in the bank. You can choose to be persistent. You can choose to do all of the actions we're giving today, no matter your status, no matter your title, position, and develop manhood, manliness. Does not matter. Hard work, how much money does that take? Doesn't. You can work hard. Toughness, where does that come from? Grit, where does that come from? None of these take money. They're the internal. We're developing the internal. And we're not judging you by the external. We're judging you by the internal. We're not even judging you. Forget that word. I don't like it. We just want you to develop the internal. Going on. He says it requires one act with honor. It is everything good about humanity, and men who possess it have developed our modern free society, right? Think about I just read a great biography, Elon Musk. That guy is a work machine, building companies at the same time, the rockets, the car, the best car for that energy. I don't really like those types of cars, but I like the gas engines. But the point is, the man is a workaholic, and he's driven, and here's the thing about Elon Musk, he wants to have an impact, to make a difference. It's not really, it seems to me in the biography, and that it's about the doing and the creating, the inventions, making the world. It seems like to me, for him, it's about making the world a better place, having an impact, getting people an alternative, where to live, etc. Right? Think about Elon Musk and his accomplishments. Think if you could work just some of the time like him. Imagine where you'd get in life. And again, you're developing the internal. I imagine what that would do to your internal, to have that kind of persistence. Man, that guy is driven. When I read his biography, I was so impressed. He has grit, persistence, drive.